Did you know that full-ride athletic scholarships don't technically exist? Or that the odds of receiving scholarships aren't high? Or that 1 out of 25 athletes will actually go pro? Or that, let alone, graduation rates are lower than you think? College athletes are unfairly exploited by the university or college you play for. The purpose of this speech is to convince you that college athletes need to be paid for playing at their school. It doesn't mean that college athletes should be living like professional athletes, ranking in signing bonuses or making and spending millions. But I will tell you, it does mean that college athletes need to get something in return for their efforts on the field. First, athletic programs bring in tens of millions of dollars, while the players live as regular college students with no stable income. Being in a college sport is a big commitment. According to the Huffington Post, athletes have mandatory study halls. They're in practice for a long amount of hours, and some have a 2-day practice, or practices 2 a day. They have curfews. They don't get holiday breaks if they make it to the postseason. And also, schedules are hectic for them because when they're in season, they barely have time for a part-time job. And of course, the practices don't end when the season ends. It's a 4-season commitment. Colleges advertise and sell merchandise for the sports and the players. The players don't get a cut of the money. According to sportsnetwork.com, as long as the merchandise doesn't have their name on it, their face, or anything, a nickname representing them, the players don't have to get paid. So it's easy for the colleges to just keep playing out players and making money off of them while they're not making anything and they're building success on them. Some may argue that players get paid enough in scholarships. The $25,000 in scholarships is not enough. But it really only covers the basics. It covers thousands of dollars in mysterious unknown university fees, tuition, housing, and meal plans, and multiple $100 textbooks for the players. Some players, if they come from a low-income household, they get $100 each semester from Pell Grants, which enables them to buy chicken soup instead of chicken top ramen. Many coaches earn $100,000 a year or over per coach, and one for major sports like basketball, baseball, or football. These coaches will receive bonuses for anything good that the players do, such as playoffs, winning championships, or breaking school records. And the athletes still get nothing besides the satisfaction of playing, and some athletes don't even play. These coaches now you know about the coaches, what the coaches earn. Now let me tell you how the school earns money. So universities bring in hundreds of dollars and thousands or even millions for the athletic programs each year. Donations, they get it by donations, ticket sales, advertising, and anything else with a price tag, basically. These athletes are symbols for their school and their program. If a school makes a huge scientific achievement, they will be in the newspaper for a few days. But if an athletic team, however, is in the newspaper, they're in there for an entire year, and they're not getting paid for any publicity or anything like that. So in conclusion, college sports teams are bringing in lots of income to their school and their coaches. We learn how the players spend their time and their money and how the school and coaches get paid. But still, there is no justice for the athletes. Thank you.
All right, Angela, what did you think?
You don't have to stand up to it.
I'm sorry?
I don't have to stand up, right?
No, you don't have to stand
That's
up.
how we had to.
No, that's all right.
I think she did a good job. I mean, she was reading on the paper a little bit. I think all of us probably believe this. I mean, we didn't have that much time for it, so you did a really good job with memorizing most of it. I didn't really hear or I think that was really strong too. That's really hard to do. But I think that you did a really, really good job. And you had rebuttals, really good rebuttals. You said some people may think this, but, and then you supported your point and your view on it. So that was really good to have strong rebuttals. Thank you.
Okay, let me give you a few comments here. I like the opening of the speech. I thought it worked pretty well. You had a nice rhetorical question and a whole series of statistics to get our attention. You identify the value argument that you're making. It almost turns into a pseudo-policy argument when you're advocating that they ought to be paid. But you do stick, for the most part, in your argument to the fairness issue. And I thought you had a pretty good start on that argument. You do need to preview what the supporting points are going to be. Let us know what's coming up in the speech. And I didn't really hear a very clear preview there. However, when you were transitioning between ideas, I could distinctly pick those things out. So you want to make sure that you do that at the beginning to kind of give us a roadmap of where you're headed. But like I said, there was a good internal signposting on those points. On your first point where you're talking about the obligations of the athletes, I thought you explained that pretty well. You had a good source citation on that, and that was pretty effective. Now, after that, there were some arguments about the coaches and how much money they make, the schools and the merchandising and all the things that they make, and I didn't really hear any data backing that up. I didn't hear how substantial that was. You could use an example, for instance, of an athlete who has been exploited in that way. Take Cam Newton, for instance, and how Auburn still sells his jersey with his number on it, even though his name is not on it, and they're making money off of that. Or how they did, promoted him during the league. Give us an example to go along with what you're talking about. But you say that the schools are making a bunch of money on this. I don't know that, because I didn't hear any statistics or experts telling us that kind of thing, and so that needs to be developed a little bit more. On the value argument, I think that the position that you are taking is that there's an injustice that's going on here because everybody else in the process is making money and the student is not getting anything back except for their scholarship. Now, I think you make an okay argument that the scholarship is inadequate for a lot of these guys or gals, depending upon what the sport is. I don't know if they do a lot of merchandising on any women's sports. Maybe they do. I'm not familiar. That's why I think a little bit of research would be helpful there. And so I think you've got the right idea here, but that's another one of those things that I think needs to be emphasized a little bit more to, you've got an example of, you've got the one. It sounds like a quote. I don't think you attributed a source to it so they can afford chicken soup instead of just chicken ramen. And I'm going, okay, well, that's a good illustration of somebody. So here's a guy who's on the field. The team, the school is selling his jersey. His image is being exploited. They're filling the stadium with his performance. And then he goes home on Sunday morning and, for breakfast, he's able to eat the warmed over ramen that he had left over from the night before because that's all he can afford at that particular point. That's the kind of stuff that's the way to combine those things. It's a little short. It's about half the time that it's supposed to be, so I like what you were doing. It developed pretty well, but it needs a lot more content to it. You stuck with the value issue well, and like I said, internally it's well organized. On the delivery things, I think Angie mentioned a couple of things. You aren't overly dependent on the script. I think you do a good job talking to us. By having the big pages in your hand, though, that is a little distracting sometimes. So that's a little bit of a problem. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure what kind of expectations they had of you before, but in my class, when we're getting to the end of the term, I don't want people to have anything in their hand except maybe a single card with just a couple of brief quotes or statistics on it that they can use. At that point, they should kind of have figured out what the outline structure is and just remembering. And I thought you did a good job, generally, like I said, but try and finish it off a little bit there. All right, thank you.